All right, see if we can get a little bit more of this done. A continuation of this morning. I had this tipped upside down. We'll see if this makes a difference. Yeah, actually quite a bit. Ben's back. Okay, you have no excuse to not get any painting done. Anyways, you posed a comment. I haven't gotten a chance to respond to your comment, but in a nutshell, I don't know how the game is going to handle that. But all those things you mentioned are, things to consider. I need to see how this game handles that, and if they seem to be reasonable. I mean, this game handles a lot of stuff, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out. So we'll just have to see. But we got a lot of stuff to create before we worry about that. A lot of stuff to create. And we're going to do that tank battle that's in that scenario before anything else. And that tank battle, it only has these buildings are really only needed for aesthetic purposes. So there's a church, for instance, in that scenario. I'm not going to go grab a church. I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is. As a matter of fact, if it's trying to represent the battle of that certain village, there's this church, you can go there, it still exists. I could buy a church and it doesn't look exactly like that church anyway, so it's kind of a moot point. And it's just off to the side anyhow, so it's just going to be it's just going to take the place of some buildings. As a matter of fact, I should have that readily accessible here. I think I left it, or did I move it down here in the corner? I bet I did. No. I think I only need like 4 buildings. It's counted, it should say Battle of Longeray. Okay, and then when we're done with the buildings, we're gonna move to the trees. You're gonna be fed up with seeing me do trees. Yeah, so this is the map here, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 rubble things. So I'm going to substitute buildings for those, and probably some of these buildings for the church. Because at some point. So we need 1 tree there. About 30 or so trees. So, looking forward to it. You're thinking of wars to implicant. What? I'm thinking of wars to implicant those aspects in the rules I want to use for World War II. Well, that was just kind of the brainstorming. Ways to implement the aspect for rules. Yeah. Well, some things are important to people, and some people are, there's a set of rules that came out. I don't know if they were mildly popular, and they were, I mentioned them the other day, and they were, I believe they were called something like Red Star, White Cross, or something, Black Cross, Red Star, or something like that. I don't remember who they were made by. The style of the print made it sound like it was the Admiralty folks, the people that put this stuff together. They may not be related at all, but the font and everything looks really similar to Clash of Arms games, and it may have been a Clash of Arms games. Okay, they I don't know, they looked a lot like that, and they had pretty good detail. And I knew one person that was really into them, and I looked at the vehicle data, and it was absurd. It was absurd the lack of vehicle data that is available on them. So, different rules have different aspects of things that are important to the rules writer, and that may or may not coincide with what you think is important. But there was a guy that used to put on games at our shows, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. That's where I actually met quite a few people that I'm still friends with in real life playing one of his games. And he just disappeared off the face of the earth. He used to be a vendor at our shows in Orlando, and nobody's heard from him. He's just kind of, I'm not really sure what happened. But he used to put on the game Saturday night at every one of the shows. It was an absurd sized board. It was like 8 by 12 or something like that. Something really big, this scale. And he used what he called his own rules. They weren't his own rules. The vehicle combat was right out of command decision. And, I guess it worked. But one of the things is you take stuff out of command decision. If you're playing a 1-to-1 scale game, if a Sherman pulls up, or what do we got here? We got this Tiger. If this Tiger comes out and it has a rate of fire of 2, he gives them 2 shots before another vehicle acts. So it's a little bit too, I don't know. But he put on a lot of games, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth. But I don't know what he did with the infantry rules, but the vehicle rules was right out of command decision. You haven't had enough coffee today. Am I going to do individual trees or base them? So this is the grandiose idea that I had about a year ago, and I still think it's wonderful. And I think in practice it will work, but I don't think I'm going to be able to move forward with it. So this is a woodland scenics tree. Okay, they come with these ugly ass bases. Okay, and the problem with the ugly ass bases is no matter what you do, you lose. Okay, it looks terrible. If you leave the base on there and you just paint that, you've got all these little circles because the base is circular and it's everywhere, and these things tend to topple all over the place. If you glue them on a stand that is, woods, which I did for one of my scenarios, it stinks because you're stuck with that silhouette. So I was brainstorming, and I said, if I get a metal sheet, and I don't want to use this, which looks like a magnet, but it's actually metal. And this is like, you could line like a tackle box with this, like a Plano box, something plated plastic. And then, things that are magnetized can stick to it. The problem is there's not enough of a grippage on it because you only have the mass, the magnetic mass. I'm speaking to you in terms that I understand. I am not a science person, but there's not a whole lot of magnetic friction to really grab these vehicles really well. Let's grab a T26 and I'll show you. It'll hold it, but it's questionable, so it'll slide off of it. So I'd rather use something that's made of metal and cut thin sheets of metal and then put these little magnets on the bottom of the tree that doesn't show all the ugly ass stump, and then they'll stand up. And I can move them however I want within this area that is metal, so that, if somebody's in the way, if these guys are moving through the woods, you can just move the trees out of the way, and then, and you're not looking at those ugly circles. So it should work fine unless I'm doing something like this, which is this scenario where it has trees in certain areas. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm still going to do the metal base, because I think it's revolutionary. And then I'm probably just going to make this up of different bases if I need to do a certain, like if I'm making my own scenarios, I'll be able to make it work. But I don't want to look at those ugly ass stumps. I just don't think it's very practical. So it doesn't have to grab it really hard. It just, actually this works for this. If the metal is too flimsy, um, then then I guess I could line it with this stuff. This stuff's expensive though, but I don't have to buy it from Lidco. I could buy it from somebody else. So these are rare earth magnets. So the magnet part has a lot of oomph to it. Is this metallic or aluminum? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get really, this is a small tree with the smallest magnet. So, and that'll look good. You don't have the stupid stump on there, So that's what I'm thinking. So I've seen beautiful terrain things, and then they have those silly ass stumps, and not the stumps, but they have these circles. They're sitting on little bases. So I don't want to see those things. So I think this is the route I'm going to go in. I'll probably do like 6 or 7 under or something like that. All I do is just gotta cut off the bottom, drill in a magnet. I couldn't get it in more than this without risk of breaking it. This is the smallest of the trees that I have, so it'll work fine on the larger trees. And then you don't have to look at, I can create a little, say I want like a row of trees here. I could just create a thing here, and it'll be made of metal. You can flock it like it's part of the ground, and you can just put the trees and move them there however the heck you want. In practice, in theory, I think it'll work fine. But then, you have to store those things. So there's always a bad side to something. So did I see the Pulp Alley video about the transparent bases? I don't think so, but I think I've seen it in a game. And I don't know that I like it because it's shiny. So we'll figure it out. And I'll make the right decision when the time comes. But I think that's the route I'm going to go in. I don't need to be so... This is just an idea anyways. It's not like, all right, let's measure. Okay, there's one tree that goes here. So that's about, these are 1 foot squares. So this is about 3 inches in and 4 inches down. We'll put one tree there and then put, you can get bogged down with stuff. But I don't want the stumps to detract from all this. The stumps, the stands. Use metal washers for individual trees suitably hidden by basing material. I use individual trees on an area map to show the extent of the woods so you can move in, troops moved out. I can already tell there's going to be a moment where you seriously consider a sand table. I would, but except if it wasn't. I could see the ground being a sand table. It just got to look how much effort I'm putting into this. Everything needs to have that effort. Or, it's like you could have a beautiful DVA painted army and then you're playing with felt, So, I got the skills to be able to handle it. It's just a matter of I need to make the effort to do it the time. And I'm willing to do it, so. Especially with all the ideas, tricks, and of everything that's on YouTube. So we're going to finish these buildings. I may not do the two big city ones just yet. Okay, we're going to finish this one and the other three, and then we'll be ready to set that up. Then we'll move the trees. Once the tree situation's set up, then we'll do the board. And then after that, we can play. So I seem to be tank heavy just for this scenario. I use a game called Face of Battle, which, what are the rules? Just super big. But it's just because they cover everything. And they're out of print. But it's a skirmish game, you know. It's really, I have a lot of tanks. You're not going to use them all on the battlefield. I mean, might use 6 on the side, maybe, but that'd be very little infantry. But it's definitely got to be something that's set up. Leave set up. I can't wait till a truck runs over a person. That's when it gets really exciting. When you got people get run over by vehicles and stuff like that, and you get to figure out how that. It's got rules for all that stuff in there. It's not generic. It's not abstracted at all. So you guys are in for a treat if I get it done. I just got to keep plugging away at it. You want to see some new games from you? Well, I'm not playing any. Otherwise, I'd be filming them. The classic war game magazine tables mostly had sand tables. It has a certain je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais quoi. Shh. The Normans will hear you. It's hard to see on those old magazines because the picture quality is so terrible by today's standard. I still have it. I don't think I got rid of this magazine. There's a magazine called, I want to say The War Gamer. And in it, there was this section called Tactical Problems. And it was like a Panzer battalion or a Panzer regiment or something that needed to do something. And they give you a map and there'd be little pictures and stuff on there. But the pictures they provided were A, black and white, and B, blurry as hell. So, you know, I just, that's not very motivating. But the stuff like, you know, that's why I'm going to digital subscriptions and I'm not subscribing to any of them. I'll look and see what the hell's the issue. And if I like it, I'll buy it, you know, and I'll print out what I want out of it. But there is some severely inspirational stuff in here. You know, I mean, look, they give you little maps in full color and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just like, makes you want to roll some dice. So, War Games Illustrated pics hold up mostly because the editor was a professional photographer, a complete setup for it. Your house would be able to have a sand table as you have no basement for it to fall into. Yeah, there's no basements here in Florida. There might be one person that has a basement in Florida. It's not like, you know, they draw the state line. It's like basements here, no basements over there. But I've never lived in a house with a basement. I don't know what that's like. Different people experience different things. I've never lived in a house with a basement. I've never had to do my laundry at a public laundry place. That's got to be weird. And it's got to be weird from the standpoint, like, you can't go anywhere. You can't, like, let me go do something while my laundry is being done. Like, what if somebody comes and, you know, likes to take your clothes? I mean, I guess it could happen. But I'm not filming any games because I'm not playing any games. I don't really have, you know, if I go and get involved in something else, that's going to take hobby time away from this, which means It's going to take even longer to do this, to accomplish this goal. So, there's got to be other people out there doing hobby videos, game videos. I mean, they don't have as much fun as we do, but there's lots of chain of command videos, for instance. Lots of chain of command videos with some folks that I don't know that I'd want to play a game with them. They seem awfully shifty, dishonorable folks. All those DBA videos are like hanging out in the game store. I dug fence posts and hit water on them all. Oh, hold on a second. Am I working on a swimming pool? None here in New Orleans. Oh yeah, that's even worse. Water's about 16 inches under the soil. Yeah, I'm not a science guy. I don't understand why if there's water in the ground, why don't we all float away? Well, you do in New Orleans. Things just don't make any sense. You know, I don't focus my attention on stuff like that. Just like some people don't give a shit about maps. Well, I'm all over maps. Yeah, won't see any more DBA videos from me. I haven't played in coming up on 2 years, and I don't and it was the right decision. It was the right decision. Nothing against the author, nothing against the people I played. It's just it's time to move on. The only way to have improved DBA would be like not have my goal to do any World War II stuff. Like, okay, I'm not doing any World War II stuff, and we're going to meet weekly on my terms here. And when it's convenient for me with my work schedule, which is basically really inconvenient all the time, and just work on stuff to try to improve the game. I just don't have the heart in it anymore. I did maybe at one time. I worked on a quasi renaissance set of improvement, and I did that when work was the slowest it's ever been in 30 years, and it is the busiest it's ever been in 30 years, and it continues to get busier and more problems every day. So yeah, I can't work on my own rules until I'm retired. If that, at this rate, it's just stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. So with no end in sight. So you're messing with fistful of toes. That's modern, isn't it? That's I feel like that's the modern version of Blitzkrieg Commander or something like that. There was that one congressman that asked a military commander during a hearing if Guam would tip over and sink. They built a runway on one side of the island. World War II modern. Now, I've done micro armor stuff back in the whatevers, and I like it. I mean, if I went back to do micro armor, I would go. I might even do those 2 millimeter, the Pico armor, but because man, micro armor is so expensive now. I play a 1 to 5 scale game, and then make these little stands, and then probably put all 5 tanks on it. This could be, the third company of the 15th Panzer Division or whatever, and all the tanks would be there. So it would be 1-to-1 representation. That's just a lot of painting. And the problem is the infantry just isn't exciting to use. They're just too damn small. And there's not enough all those rules are just very pro tank, anti infantry. And, you're playing some kind of a skirmish game. For me, it's a big deal The excitement is when you start throwing grenades and they don't land where you want them to. That's when the party starts. And anyhow, I've played those operational scale games before, and they're okay, but been there, done that. A lot of stuff is just, I think, just gets represented better in a computer game. Like, there's no reason, I don't mind games that have counters, but I'm not going to play a counter game when I could just, you could fire up a computer game and do that, and it could save all your locations and stuff like that. Many people disagree with me, but I just having this game with all these towers of counters is just, it's not necessary to do that anymore. Bouchon, is that an animal? I don't mean it ugly. I mean, I think it's an animal name, isn't it? I don't speak French, but I got a clue. It just seems like something that would be on the menu, and I don't mean the menu where I went in Mexico. It's not a grasshopper. It's cork in French. Okay, like a stopper. Yeah, when you're done with the wine. Garçon, bouchon. Cool. Well, some of the first infantry on here is probably going to be French guys. I got, how many I got? 15, 16 Maquis? So, I got enough Germans painted. I just got to fix their stands so they all look consistent. So they all look as reasonable as these. Okay, we'll move over to the other side. And they can come after people for trashing their town. Not people, the Germans. They can come after the damn Germans. Les Maquis. I got a couple people I know that they don't like the French. I should make them play. You want to play, you got to play French. I'll play anybody now. They call a traffic jam a bouchon. I like that you use the cheap ass craft paint. I get excellent results with it too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just, I waste a lot of it. So I don't want to replace the other stuff. Uh, the brick isn't the cheap ass craft paint. And that's just because I had a color that I wanted to use for it. But the backgrounds that I painted for some of my pictures, I've used all with craft paint. Craft paint's all right. Some brands are better than others. It seems like the folk art is the best one. But some of these are ones I bought for myself, and some of them are my daughter's, honestly. She's, like when she was little, kids would come over and paint and you'd buy this stuff. And I'm just like, well, when we moved, I'm like, I'm commandeering all of it. So half of it's probably mine, half of it probably isn't mine. But if they need it, then come here and get it. Yeah, this Americana, it just, And the thing about craft paint is interesting is all the craft paint that I have is all made in the United States. And it's cheap stuff. So you can make cheap things in the United States. But um, Americana, Deco Art, Apple Barrel, Folk Art, all those, they were hard to get a hold of when the COVID debacle happened. Everybody was out there doing crafty things that had no business doing crafty things. Hey, I'm just saying that artsy people like me should get first dibs on buying paint. Like, we're out of paint, we need paint. Like, oh, well, Frank over here bought it. Well, Frank's never done an artsy thing in his entire life. Back of the line, pal. But now it's stocked. Back of the line, Frank. I don't think I'm going to use the craft paint through the airbrush though. I may try it, but there's a video that seems like makes a pretty legitimate case for using this particular airbrush thinner for all acrylic paints. I'm like, I think I've seen this in the store. Let me go hunt it down. No, I saw another brand that looks similar to this particular one, but this particular brand that and it was an American that made the video. So I'm like, oh, it's got to be available at Michael's or someone. Nope, nope. It's only made in the United Kingdom, of course. My nemesis, the United Kingdom, where everything I want comes from there, and it costs an arm and a leg. So I'm like, well, I guess um, we won't airbrush this stuff, but I may try it anyways. It would just be for terrain. As I got this felt, is it up there? No, it's in the garage. I swear it's like an 8 foot by 8 foot felt thing that I got, and it's not one color. There's some modeling in it, and I think that's what I'm going to use as a base for it. Before I build that table, you want? I don't know. I don't know that I want a table that has a permanent road in a certain place. Need to be able to make that optional or removable. But we'll be doing all that shit live. I have no plans on playing any of these games and not being filmed. I guarantee that interesting stuff's going to happen. Hilariously interesting things. What I'm not going to use is enamels. I've got this Tamiya panel liner that I don't know. I was in a rush. I was getting rushed and I bought it. And in order to use that stuff, I've got to supposedly cover what I've done with a clear coat, with an acrylic clear coat, and then put that. That's like too specific. You got to do this. You got to stand over it. That's a little too much like the soup Nazi. I want something with a little bit more flexibility. And I think I'm just going to return it, get store credit, buy something else with it. And I like Tamiya products, but I don't think I'm going to go down that road. That's just too limiting, especially when I'm perfectly happy using the acrylic alternatives that have no smell. I haven't even opened it to see what it smells like. It might smell awful. But the craft paint doesn't cover the same as Vallejo, but that's fine. I'm what all this stuff I'm adding multiple coats. I'm adding, I don't know, 5 to 6 coats in making this stuff look differently. So it should work just fine. Actually, the base color of this is not cheap ass paint, but some of it is. So just all the interior was done. Most of it's cheap ass paint. Cheap ass paint. Planes, the smooth pales and hard cracks, the line stuff. Yeah, well, let's smell it. Directions: do not use onto enamel paint. Warning: this product can expose you to chemicals including ethyl benzene, which is known to the state of California to cause cancer or birth defects or other reproductive harm. I think the state of California causes harm. Just living there. Oh, I say that out loud. As the Frenchman says, mind your own business. Oh, that's horrible. We'll be returning that. We don't need that in our life. That's just unpleasant. My wife will be like, "What are you doing in there?" I'm used to my hobby not having any smells. What's the what's the California equivalent of the UK? I know you're probably going to say Ireland. Ethyl benzene. London. London is the okay. Fair enough. Okay, Phil. Thanks for stopping by, man. Yeah, big cities are. I'm not a fan. You know, life's too difficult. Everybody's in your way, and then everybody turns into a dickhead. And and if you try to, so you either so if you live there, you turn into a dickhead yourself, or you're frustrated all the time. Yeah, they have weird stuff in big cities. Like you got to pay for parking. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? Like, you have a business. There needs to be some parking there if you want me to go to your business. Good Lord. Come on. This can't be El Clago. Jeffrey, I'm going to ask you, since you seem to be pretty knowledgeable and you're over that part of the world, is are the foundry paints, the ones that are the triad system, is that the same manufacturer as Coat d'Arms? Is that the same manufacturer? I mean, the bottles look the same. Is that the same manufacturer as this? Because I may pick some up then. I mean, this is the gold standard right here. You don't see me use these much because I honestly don't know how the hell I got these. There must have been a store that had them, and I tried them, and they're old, but this is the gold standard of the paint. You probably don't airbrush worth a damn, but that's it. And they don't have a ton of colors, which you don't need a ton of colors. But they were selling, the last time I saw the triads, they were selling them for like almost $30 for three of them. That just seems pretty excessive, especially if they're not any good. I did see some new paints that they had at the store in the next town over that I had never seen before. They were somebody else's names, and I should have written down what they were, but I had never heard them before. Like Marcus Hollingsworth or something. I don't know. It was like the guy's name, like he was some famous guy, but I never heard of him before, you know. And their mantra was too thin coats. Well, that means they don't cover with a shit. I'd rather have thick paint that I thin down myself. Better value. But they had eyedroppers, and I guess I should have taken a picture of them. Marcus Hollingsworth, whatever the guy's name was. I want to say his name started with an M, but they were acrylic too. I wouldn't even consider them if they weren't. Mr. Wardrobe, welcome. London is like a different country. I may or may not have purchased some Italy to relieve Chum's childhood memories. Sounds like you did. Switching to all Vallejo myself. Infantry, I'm using combat miniatures, and battlefield. All the battlefields out of production. I sat on them for like 20 years. My favorite is combat miniatures, and those molds by my hero. He's my hero, but I can't think of his name. He might have been an asshole in real life, but I mean, he's my favorite sculptor. I mean, it's not even close. Shit, what's his name? Dave Alsop. And this building is a hovels that I got from Noble Knight. I had one from way back when, and I actually finished that one. And I came out so well, I'm like, well, let's see who else makes them. And Noble Knight had them for like half off. And I'm like, well, let me go get the whole. I don't love that it's not split like this, but I can deal with it. They didn't used to do that back then. I don't know how old this thing is. It might be from the early '80s, I'm guessing. So I just ended up getting another 6 buildings or something from them. They were like, I paid like, I think average like $10 each or something like that. It was something crazy. No, it was 5 buildings. It was 5 buildings, and it was like $60 plus shipping. So, I think these normally would break down to being, $20. I did get some that were broken, unfortunately, but I fixed them and moved on. Shit happens. If I find something at Noble Knight, it's usually a cheap price because I work in a scale nobody wants. If it was 15 millimeter or 28 millimeter, those things are in demand. Somebody trades them something at 1/72nd, they're probably thinking, nobody plays in that scale. Real men do, damn it. Old school men play in that 1/72nd scale. The one true scale is somebody on the miniatures page put one time. I don't remember who the hell that was. I also wish I would have remembered, the dollies guy. Anything larger than 20 millimeters playing with dollies. That's right, Barbie Ken. Duncan Rhodes, that's what it is. Duncan Rhodes. He was on Games Workshop in-house painter on YouTube. His catchphrase was telling people to apply too thin coats rather than on thick, mostly aimed at beginners. HMG Paints makes foundry, coat the arms, privateer press, and Games Workshop Citadel. Okay, I guess I should try Foundry next time I see him. Duncan Rhodes, yeah, that's who it is. Aimed at beginners, we're well past that. I'm a beginner at a lot of things, but not this shit. I got this down. And that's what I need to remember to tell myself. Sometimes I get into writer's block, but with paint. And I'm like, dude, just slap things on there. You can fix it as you go. Because, not my first rodeo. Sometimes you just forget, you kind of need to talk yourself into stuff. It's like, man, don't be such a putz. Just start slinging paint, And I mean, this is slinging paint. We're just kind of winging it. We're not just, I don't mean Jackson Pollock. That's, I need to do some coke for that. You got to play in SnappyCon 9 in Manchester, Connecticut last October 9th, 1909. Campaign played. You played Van Damme. Last 1809 campaign, you played Van Damme. 1809 is against Austria. Even I know that, and I'm not a nappy head. Was not featured in the Napoleon movie. 1809 never happened. Oh, man. I love products that have a name, like I'm supposed to know who it is. Yeah, I mean, you got into them paints by that Duncan Hines guy. Aimed at beginners. There's a lot of stuff that's aimed at beginners, but the reality is, and I'm not trying to knock on beginners, is you just got to experiment. You just got to do it, and you just don't be discouraged. Just keep at it, and you'll either get it or you'll quit. I just feel like we all have some ability that we were given at birth, whether we want it or not. Some things are going to be easier for us than other folks. And then on top of that, you got to practice. But I think to be really, really good at something, you got to have those skills that are just get passed on to you genetically or whatever. Because otherwise, it's just going to be really frustrating trying to compete with folks that are, it's like if I picked up a golf club, I'm not going to be, Tiger Woods. Well, it's too late now, and I don't want to. But let's say I had a Woody for being a golf player. It's going to be a lot more difficult than it was for him. He's going to have a hell of a time painting this. I guarantee he's not going to be worth a shit at it. So instruments, people that are into instruments. I'm not musically inclined, but people that are probably can play things, can wing things the way I can wing painting this. It's just, there's some innate abilities, and then you sharpen them as you go. But you got to be able to, it's got to be something that interests you. Like it interests me to paint things well. It doesn't interest me to sing. So assuming I had a singing voice, which I do not, I'm not going to have a lot of fun going to play to karaoke. It just doesn't interest me. So, the whole beginner thing, there's some people that just are never going to paint well. And they may never be happy with with how they do. Someone had mentioned that I've heard people talk that the packaging that Games Workshop does on their games with the professional, I mean, they have some incredible painters. I don't really like Games Workshop themes that they do for their games, regardless of any of their other practices. They're just, I don't do science fiction. I don't do fantasy. But if I did, I do like the way that they handle things in presentation. But I've heard some people that it's a disservice to beginners because they see all these miniatures painted really well and know that they can't compete with that. Whereas I look at it and I'm like, okay, I could do better in the work that I'm doing, and I've got a clue, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet that can improve your game or your game in painting. So I don't find it discouraging at all. I find it uplifting. But again, it just depends on how you look at things, what skills you have, and what you want to challenge yourself with. And hell, I find this relaxing. Some people are like, "Oh, it's stressful." If this was stressful, I guarantee I wouldn't be doing it. There's no way I would be interested in doing that. So the missing battles may turn up in the 4-hour version. Will it be trench warfare? I'm not going to say I'm not going to watch the 4-hour version, but I am going to say I'm not going to pay any money to see it. I didn't pay money to see this version. Um, there's so much that is just a disappointment. Um, that for those of you guys that got really excited about it and are Napoleonic players, I can just imagine you probably send a kill team to go after several of those people, but you know it was why can't people fake a French accent? I don't understand why it's so damn difficult. Um, One of the shows that Mitch and I really liked is this series that came out, I'm gonna say 10 years ago, called Versailles, and the main character, uh, who is Louis the XIV, is played by the guy who plays the monk. He's an English actor. Of course, they work cheaper, and and generally do a better job with accents than people on this continent. We apparently don't give a shit about that as a general rule. I'm not one of those, but as a general rule, Americans just are, you know, retarded and don't care about doing accents of other countries. But anyhow, the guy that plays the monk in that gets captured in Vikings, and and he does a superb job as Louis the XIV, but he has made zero attempt to change the accent of the character to be anything other than his own accent that he uses to, on every day. It is just really distracting. I find it really distracting. Um, and likewise, Joaquin does not sound like anything other than an American. I mean, he didn't even try to do an English accent because you know that all the bad guys have English accents, and he didn't try to do that. He was just like, "This is how I speak. I don't give a shit." And apparently, the director didn't care either. You know, um, George Blagden, is that his name? If it is, he was excellent. He was absolutely excellent. I really like that series a lot, and it's definitely a series that's more aimed at the people of the women persuasion, of the female persuasion, because there's a lot of romance stuff in there, and you know, I didn't mind it. It's not like that offends me, or I can't handle it. It was just I would have liked to have seen battles and stuff like that, which I think there was one scene with a shit with these big cannons or something like that. But anyways, yeah, Mitch and I both watched that at different times, and we both liked it quite a bit. And he did an excellent Louis the XIV. He does pompous and I'm better than you, and really well. So, but teach the man. I think that one of the few people that did a French accent was the guy that plays the Minister of Finance. Hell, he might even be French. That and maybe a third of the cast even remotely try to do that. I'm like, why don't you guys do that? I mean, you're actors, you kind of get paid to do that kind of stuff. I mean, I do accents and I do them for free, and with some training I'd probably be really good at it, you know Anyhow, that was a. He really liked the detective. I didn't really care for the detective because I feel like he just didn't have any. He didn't have any charisma. I really didn't care about. It wasn't very convincing. But I can't really relate to people that are so absorbed by their work that they can't have a personal life. It's find that really odd. Does not compute. There were a few French Canadian actors in the series. Other people that work for cheap. Good. Well, they probably were the guys that did a good job speaking French. There's a whole lot of people that made zero effort into it. So, The Spy was the best part of it for me. Which spy? I liked a lot of it. The guy that played the lover of his brother is freaking great. That guy was that guy was incredible. He was extremely entertaining. Um, the boyfriend of the king's brother. The king's brother was just like a freaking stick in the mud. And maybe that's how the guy was in real life, but the guy's boyfriend was freaking he was flamboyantly hilarious. I loved it. It was great. Um, who's the spy? You're not talking about the girl at the end, are you? There's one girl that was kind of like training to with the detective, the dark haired girl, and she was really cute. She was actually the only one in the whole series that I thought was particularly attractive. And I think the actress is like from India or something like that. She was really cute. But yeah, she was like a double crosser or something like that, I think. But that was like in the last series or whatever, the one that had all the it was devil worshippers, right? They were like taking kids and like I mean, yeah, you got to put a stop to that. Doesn't matter whether you believe in the devil. If you're sacrificing real people, that the real people are dying, regardless of some supernatural forces getting any stronger. Yeah, you can't have that. Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever his name was. Yeah, I thought he was. Mitch liked him the best too. He just didn't do. I don't know. He just didn't. There were like four or five different things going on. You had the king was doing something, his brother was doing something else. The spy was kind of on his own tangent doing different things. So it hopped around. So if one thing was kind of boring, something else kind of picked up. So I don't know. I thought the series was pretty good, especially considering the crap that's on television these days. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty good. Now, with that said, and some of you guys may disagree with me, I don't really consider Napoleon a bad guy. Was he power hungry? I mean, I would say that Napoleon was less of a bad guy than Alexander the Great. Oh, where's the Alexander defenders? No, and I don't think Alexander was a bad guy. I just don't think Napoleon was that. Did that really happen? That was in the movie? I haven't gone far enough. Did he like make a deal with the Russians and then the Russians changed their mind? Like that's not very cool, you know. And I think the Napoleon movie didn't really make him out to be a bad guy either. It made him out to be, somebody who was pussy whipped. It just did, you know. Um, okay, we need to add some white to this, and I think we're going to be where we need to be. We're going to do the unspeakable thing, which is to take this dirty ass brush and bring it in here and pull some of this white out. Looks like sour cream. They have that in the UK. Is that American phenomena? You would like to see more of the back against the Netherlands. Yep. Yeah, well, we all would have liked to see that. I mean, that's what we're there for, right? There was some battle stuff, but it was way, very few and far between. It was basically a court intrigue show. Sour cream is a popular cool dip with added cucumber. Yeah, sounds good to me. Nothing weird there. Well, that doesn't sound like bugs on the menu. Man, I couldn't wait to get back to the United States. I may have to stop at some moment. We're supposed to go out and go out to dinner, and I guarantee we're not going to go have Mexican food. Enough of that. Well, next time I'll see some of the Foundry stuff, I guess I may pick up a triad of it or whatever. Although I don't really paint in that way. I'll have to actually find a triad that are very different from each other so I can use them as three individual different paints. I probably would use a triad if I was painting 6 mil, but anything bigger than that, I just feel like you need more steps in it than just three. But that's just my own personal style. It might work for other people, especially faces. And the one I really like is not sour cream, is cream cheese. Oh my God, that stuff's amazing. It can be. Obviously, it depends how you use it. Me fan. And of course, there's weird things to eat in every country. What's the weirdest thing you guys think in the UK that you guys eat? There's weird stuff that they eat here, like pig's feet. Most people don't eat that. They'd be like, "What's wrong with you? I don't want to eat toenails." Looking at toenails while you're putting it in your mouth. It's just, that's not some fringe type thing. Just something that's like a common weird thing. It's got to be something weirder than haggis. Oh, we have a visitor. Okay, and on that note, um, we'll have to stop because we got to go out. So I don't know, maybe back on later on today. But we got to go and do things that need to be done while the places are still open. Anyways, just did a bunch of trimming. So next up, we'll do the trimming over these window sills and the shutters. That's what the plan will be. Okay, folks, we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.